What do you do when your libidos don't match? When you want to have sex more than your wife, or your wife wants to have sex more than you? Most people think that the man wants more sex than the woman, when in fact, oftentimes the woman wants more sex than the man does. We're going to schedule sex dates. Is that sexy? No, not at first. Become sexy, right? Gives your wife something to look forward to and make it fun. For most men, we feel more connected to our wife after sex. Well, for women, they need connection to want to have sex. So if you can supply connection to her, you get connected, you get sex. She needs to feel seen. She needs to feel heard. She needs to feel desired. If you can allow those things to happen, you win. Hey guys, welcome back to the TPM Show. Today, what I want to talk about is bridging the desire gap. What I mean by that is, what do you do when your libidos don't match? When you want to have sex more than your wife, or your wife wants to have sex more than you? Now, I remember when somebody sitting across in a counseling session when things weren't going well for my wife and I. And at that point in our marriage, we just weren't being intimate, right? We didn't like each other, really. We loved each other, but we didn't like each other, if you've ever been there. But I remember the therapist asking a question. We ended up getting rid of this person because, again, I don't think marriage counseling works. Certainly doesn't work for the guys that come through our program or me. But this one was an interesting question. What he asked my wife, said, how many days a week do you want to have sex or be intimate? And she answered, and then he asked me, well, how about you? And I answered. And he said, that's interesting because my wife and I were pretty much on the same page. We just weren't doing it because we didn't, like I said, we didn't like each other at that moment. And he said, it's really common for those to be mismatched. And most people think that the man wants more sex than the woman, when in fact, oftentimes the woman wants more sex than the man does more frequently. She just isn't feeling the connection, so therefore she doesn't want to be intimate. Now, he didn't go into all those details, but he just talked about the mismatch of sex. And that was the first time I really thought about it. And that this is a long time ago. So since then, I've seen this happen so many times. So what do you do? What do you do when your libidos don't match? Like it's not matching in the bedroom. Well, first, what I want you to do is take stock of your marriage, right? Give yourself a rating right now at a scale of 1 to 10. 10 being your marriage is off the hook, great. 1 being it sucks, right? It's the bottom of the barrel. You cannot have a 7. So if you pick 7, I want you to pick a 6 or an 8, right? So go ahead, give yourself a number. I'll give you time. Come on. All right, perfect. Now, let's say you have your number there. If you are a 6 or below, then your challenge is going to be to raise that bar. That could be the problem with the libido. Is your marriage just isn't that great? A 6 is what? A D, right? Yeah, D is for diploma, as one of my roommates in college said one time. That's just not true, right? D, you're not going to get where you want to go with being a D in your life, right? You want an A, right? You want a B plus at the least during hard times. But like I always say, life is too short for average. You want exceptional. You deserve an exceptional marriage. So you want to work on that. You should join the activation method. Yes, I'm biased. I think it's the best program out there for businessmen because it's a methodology that's been proven time and time again. You just need to go through it. Now, let's just say it's not the 6. Now we want to figure out is there another issue? So there's oftentimes in a woman's cycle, and you need to learn your woman's cycle. I track my wife's menstrual cycle with an app that she shares with me. So I've asked her to do it. So you can also do this on the DL. We have a lot of guys that do it on the DL and track their wife's cycle. They basically download an app for menstrual cycle tracking. And as soon as their wife's on her menstrual cycle, they log it in. And eventually these apps get fairly predictive. Now, of course, there's fluctuations that happen. But also these apps allow the woman to share it with their partner. So I can track my wife's cycle and I can see when she's ovulating or what's going on. And I've trained myself, or I've learned, right? When I have missing knowledge, I took the education on to learn how a menstrual cycle or a woman's cycle is affected, how it affects their libido. And it makes total sense. Like when she's starting to ovulate, right? That's when a child can be born. So she naturally is the most horny. And that's a good thing to know as a guy, isn't it? Like that's when we want to know. Also, when she's going through menstruation, she's the least typically because her body's drained. She's got low energy. So you want to learn this, right? Men have their own cycles to go through, and you want to learn yours. What time of day are you most interested in sex? What time of day for you? If you watch porn, when do you watch it? What time of day do you watch it? If you don't watch porn and you fantasize, what time of day? What time of day do you get the hardest erections? These are things that you just kind of want to take mental notes of, and you may not have thought about them as a time of day, but it's a cycle, right? When are you the horniest? When is your wife the horniest? Have that conversation if you guys are open to doing it. If you have kids, but sex conversations are tough, change that. It would be my advice because you've had sex. So, hey, why make it taboo? I don't understand. Don't make it something that you can't talk about. You want to make it an environment that you can have open conversations about sex and sexuality with your wife. So match those libidos. You may also find what you want to do is get your hormone levels checked as a man, right? As a man with processed foods, toxins in the environment, they can take a big hit on our testosterone levels. Also, as men, as we age, our testosterone levels go down. So go get yours checked. Have a doctor do a complete blood panel on you. Same thing happens for women, right? Oftentimes when women supplement with testosterone or estrogen as well, their hormones get more in balance, if you will. And I'm not an expert on this by any means, but I know a lot of people who are experts, and so I have these conversations with them. And they'll tell me, Doug, women come in because they just don't feel right. They just don't feel themselves. And their hormones are just out of whack and they get imbalanced. Their desire to have sex, their desire for their husband just shoots through the roof. My wife, she coaches women and she'll tell me all the time, like, yeah, women want to have sex with their man. That's what they want to do. They want their man. Now, they may not have the desire to have sex at all, right? If their marriage is good, they definitely want their husband. That's who they want, right? That's you. So she's not looking for somewhere else. Now, if the marriage is bad, that's when she starts to look elsewhere. She'd rather the marriage be good and have sex with you. That's her goal. And I find it really interesting because, a lot of times we hear from men that come in. We got thousands of men. I think last month alone, we had something like 40,000 men inquire about our flagship program, the activation method. That's a lot of guys. And we do this month to month. These inquiries come in. And a lot of times the conversations are about women who have strayed. Now, sometimes the guy does, sometimes that has nothing to do with that, but they start having emotional affairs. And then one of the reasons this is libido is high, but the relationship is bad. And so therefore the bedroom becomes dry. Or she's having sex out of obligation as a married woman or for religious reasons. I hear that quite often. But she's not. But that's masturbatorial sex, right? Nobody wants to have a sex with someone you love where they're just laying there waiting for you to finish. No, you want passion, man. You want intimacy, and you deserve it. And you deserve to have those things. Another thing to realize is for us guys, and I've talked about this before, for most men, we feel more connected to our wife after sex or during. Usually it's after. You feel more connected, you feel happier, you feel lighter for obvious reasons, right? Well, for women, they need connection to want to have sex. So you need to supply the connection. So if you can supply connection to her, you get connected, you get sex, right? And she loves it, you love it, right? Women have strong libidos too, guys. But she needs to feel safe, not just physically safe, but emotionally safe. She needs to feel seen. She needs to feel heard. She needs to feel desired. If you can allow those things to happen, you win. It's often said that guys are like microwaves, right? We can get horny and hard really quickly. We can end quickly. Women are like a slow boil, right? Like putting something on a very slow boil. It takes a long time for that boil to really get rapid, right? And that's why women need foreplay. But this also happens with communication. So you need to learn and master the triad of connection. You just need to. And most specifically, the hidden motives technique. I've done at least 50 podcasts on this topic. So we're giving it all to you guys free. So when I'm promoting the activation method, which is our flagship program, I think every man should go through it. At the bare minimum, though, go through these podcasts, go through these shows on YouTube, learn the hidden motives technique. Over the last, 6 years or so, we've been sharing these all for free because we're about a movement of helping men. And I think it's the best thing out there. So we want to have that. We want that communication plan. And then we want to also do is find common ground. Like, again, that question I was talking to you before. Sit down and ask your wife, say, hey, in an ideal world, how many times a week would you want to be intimate with me? How many times? If things are, let's just assume things are going well, you're happy, I'm happy. What does that look like? Now, guys that I've coached that have had this conversations with their wives have often been surprised, and it goes one of two ways. One is their wife says, geez, I'd want to have sex at least twice a day. And they're like, what? Like, whoa, it's twice a day. We're not even having sex once a week. And that's because oftentimes women are also taught that they're not allowed to initiate. They're not allowed to talk about sex because otherwise they'll be thought of as a slut, right? So they don't want to do that. So you want to provide that gateway. And guys that have been there, they're like, oh, wow, let's have sex twice a day, 7 days a week. And I always jokingly say, get your electrolytes because you're gonna be worn out. You'll be most men that I work with, once they start doing that, they get tired pretty quickly. But also, she may say, you know what? I'm not interested in having sex with you at all until this marriage actually gets good. And then that's also a shocker for some guys because they think, oh, Doug, my marriage is probably a 6 out of 10. And they talk to their wife, and the wife says, no, our marriage is a 3 at best. There's a big disconnect there, right? Some stuff needs to be worked on. This is also why guys get surprised. 70% of divorces are initiated by a woman, and that number goes up to 90%. 90% of divorces are initiated by the woman, if she's got a college degree or higher. Odds are you're going to get served with divorce papers, right? So you got to check in and figure out what's going on here. And if you're busy like me, sometimes you got to schedule sex. It's tough. I got 2 young kids. I got swim lessons, soccer practice, baseball, dance. I'm running businesses. There's all kinds of things going on. My wife's got things going on. And sometimes at the end of the day, you're just friggin' tired. You're just like, oh, I'm just exhausted. But let's assume you've balanced your hormones. You've at least gone there and talked to a doctor, whether it be a specialist who specializes in hormones. You pick yours, functional medicine doctor, whoever, whatever suits your fancy. Your wife's done that with hers. You've had a conversation about how many nights, days a week, if things are good, that you want to have sex, right? You assume your marriage is good or at least on the uptick. If it's not, you work on that first. But you assume that. Now, the next thing you want to do, you just go, crap, we're just busy. Great, we're going to schedule sex dates. Is that sexy? No, not at first. Becomes sexy, right? Gives your wife something to look forward to. You can make this fun. Make this on date night. Schedule sex dates on date night or schedule lunch breaks where you guys can be intimate. And make it fun. Be anticipatory about it. Tell your wife, go, hey, Wednesday afternoon, are you free? Yep. Great. We're going to have a sex date. I want you to wear the red dress that you wear and wear the high heels, and I'll be home at noon. Whatever it is, plan it. Schedule in your calendar. Make it one of those things. I call it, put that in the brush your teeth category versus the get a massage category. What I mean by that is brush your teeth is something that's a non-negotiable, I hope, for you, because you're constantly brushing your teeth twice a day. Maybe you skip a day here or there, whatever, but you do it. You make up for it, right? If you skip a morning, you brush your teeth in the afternoon, whatever it is. But you just do it. You don't have to think about it. It's just something you do, right? We want sex dates or intimacy to be in that category. Whereas get a massage might be something that someone gifts you, or you do it every once in a while, if at that. It's not something that you're just constantly doing. We want this in the brush your teeth category. Intimacy is important. Remember, the only difference between your wife's brother and you, she might love her brother, she might love you, she might like her brother, she might like you, but hopefully she's only being intimate with one of you. And that's the difference in marriage. And so if you have a dry bedroom, if you have a sexless marriage, you need to work on the marriage first and then come back through these topics. Go through these things I've talked about today, rewind these, go through these steps, and you'll make sure that you start having more intimacy. And look, sex is fun. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing it. So you should be having as much of it as you want, within reason, and as much as your partner wants, within reason. And I'll go as far to say that, if you're masturbating, all good. But check in with your partner, make sure she's getting as much sex as she wants. And if your wife says, hey, I'm not getting as much sex as I want, and you're masturbating, stop. Start not using your wife, that sounds horrible. Start being intimate and having that release with your wife, right? That's a better way of doing it, guys. You're going to feel better. She's going to feel better. Bonding hormones, oxytocin are going to be released. It's going to be a better environment for you and for everybody. And hey, let's call it what it is. A marriage that's filled with passionate sex is a much better marriage than one that's a desert in the bedroom. That's going to create a more harmonious environment for you, for her, but also for anybody that's around you, your kids, your extended family. Life just gets better. Guys, as I always say, in the moment of insight, take massive action. Go through these, make sure these steps happen. You yourself can schedule the hormone test today. You yourself can schedule the date night. You yourself can have to lead that conversation with your wife. But whatever you do, take some massive action. For some reason, this topic is taboo in our society, sex that is. But I'm going to be talking about it a lot more on these podcasts because I want you guys to be informed, have the education, but I also want to show you guys how you can have these conversations with your wife in a meaningful way. Until next time, I'll see you on the Powerful Man Show.